But yeah, going back into history though, in 1914 is when Chevrolet was first put together with Billy Durant. He was the money, and he had Louis Chevrolet, the mechanical designer and builder of the Chevrolet vehicles. You also had Henry Leland Cadillac, you had David Dunbar Buick, you had R.E. Oldsmobile, you had all these different people that just decided, you know what, we're washing our hands, we can't make it, we can't do it. You know, Buick was building trucks in the early 30s and they washed out, so was Oldsmobile. You know, they didn't have a following like Chevrolet did. So Billy Durant ponied up his money and said, I'll buy you guys out, and that's where GMC came from. You know, the only one that stuck was Cadillac, really. You know, Pontiac kind of changed it and got blended in with the crew, along with Buick, but they all became part of GMC instead of individual like builders and this and that. They were all fell under GMC, which is General Motors Corporation. But Billy Durant was a gambler, you know, he really was. He lost the corporation in the beginning, got it back, and died of poor poverty. He never got to see his dream fulfilled. But he set the wheels in motion to see to it that it wouldn't stop. Louis Chevrolet was a race car driver for Mr. Buick way back when in 1911. Louis Chevrolet was a race car driver for David Dunbar Buick back in 1911. But in his off hours, he was building engines for, you know, overhead valve engines, stuff that Ford didn't have. Ford had flatheads still, you know. Everybody else was behind the times. But because of Cadillac had the first electric start and the first overhead valve V8s, you know, the copy of design came in there, and Chevrolet became the blue-collar guy's car. You know, it's something that everybody could afford. It wasn't out of anybody's price range unless you were, you know, in the gutter. Well, that was like, okay, Larry SHINODA is one. He was a grease man. He was a heck of a mechanical engineer, but he loved getting dirty, just like Louis Chevrolet. He liked building things and designing things, but he was no good behind a desk in an office. You know, you have people that are designed for white collar and other people that get down and dirty and don't really care about the recognition, you know. And they stayed in the background, but, you know, they deserve recognition, because without them, where would we be now? You know? And I believe all of us, you know, hardworking American citizens deserve a little recognition now and then. Larry SHINODA came over from Pontiac, and he was under Harley Earl's, you know, discretion, put him where he wanted him in the corporation. And him and Zora got along real well, along with Billy Mitchell. They were like really tight. But Zora was always doing something. If he wasn't doing something for the company, he was doing something to make the company out, you know, stand out in racing. Everything that he did was for the Corvette Stingray. You know, it was just unbelievable what the guy was capable of doing, not only designing, but racing his own vehicles. And the AMA did not like that. They frowned on that big time. In fact, they got him to stop, so he built a special car just for Billy Mitchell. And it was called the Billy Mitchell Racer. It was done just for the Sebring rigs. And Jerry Earl had a lot of the design production for the nose and the body parts and stuff, along with Zora and Zora's brother, which a lot of people didn't know. Yuri was Zora's brother. They came over together. Nobody even understood that. Everybody said, oh, Zora, he's the main guy. Well, he had a brother who was just as recognizable in the industry as Zora was. They were like, you know, a little team together. But it was just amazing what Zora could do. He surpassed all other car companies, and when Shelby asked him to do some engine swaps for him because he liked what Zora did, Zora turned him down and said, no, I can't do it. And that was the end of that. Shut Shelby down right away because Shelby was with Ford. The last Stingray was 67. 68 had no Stingrays at all because there was a big dispute in the corporation. 69 came Stingray again. And then 76 was the very last year to have a Stingray production car. So it's been almost 35 years to date. I mean, that's incredible. Incredibly looking car. I mean, it just looks so futuristic. I mean, I like the split back window. That was Zora's design in the 63, but everybody, you know, yelled at him for it. And then when he got the 63 and drove it on the racetrack, he said, man, I can't see out the back window. So they did away with that. You know, 64 had no production split windows anymore. They called it a mistake, but I don't think it was. I think it was something retro that had to be. You know, one of a kind. Well, the Mako was, it was actually a design Grand Sport racer originally. And when Larry SHINODA saw that, he goes, hey, let me do some design, you know, drawings and see what you think. And that's where the Mako Shark came from, the Mako 1 and Mako 2. Now, they had another one called the Manta Ray, but there was only one car built. It was a convertible, and they had a few problems with it at high speed, so they never made it a production car. But yeah, Mako was all Larry SHINODA's name and all futuristic design of the body. It looked almost like a low-profile Ferrari at the time, you know, but just a little bit better because it was American. You know what amazes me though? I thought back and I was looking back in the history books about some of the Corvettes that they were producing that never got sold. You know, like the racers and before the Stingray came about, the Super Sport and Grand Sports. And they had secret lettered codes for it, like XP64, they had SR2, you know, which stood for Civic Racer 2, that was Billy Mitchell's car. They had a lot of, they had an XP700. They had to do that though in order to hide what they were doing on off hours, because they were corporate people. They were for GM, by GM. So Zorro was always tinkering in the background with something. If he wasn't working for the corporation here, he was doing something else with the corporation in mind, you know? That's what I thought was real interesting. Believe it or not, Bunky Knudsen and Larry Shinoda were together at Pontiac. And Bunky Knudsen came over and said, hey, I got this really good mechanical engineer, you'll love him, his name's Larry Shinoda. So automatically they went with it, because Bunky was a big head-up corporate guy. And there was Harlow Curtis, he was one of the big corporate GM, hit what he said went, and then from there went down the ranks to Ed Cole and Tom Keating and so on. But when Curtis says, yeah, go ahead, do whatever you want, you guys got my go-ahead and okay on everything, everything went smoothly. And it was just like all of GM came together on that Corvette. There was only one person that didn't, and that was DeLorean. And he got 86th. Well, he ended up with his own car and a drug habit, and then he just couldn't foot the bill no more, you know, and nobody would back him. You know, and that's what happened, it all fell apart. You know, whoever heard of a stainless steel car? Stainless steel, nothing sticks to it because it's such a noble metal and non-magnetic, it's non-ferrous, you know. What are you going to do with it? It's good for silverware, but not in the car. That's just my opinion. Had to throw that in. One of the amazing things about Corvette is from beginning to now, it's been an American icon. I think it always will be. You know, nothing should change that ever. I don't think they should ever lose the Corvette. Or, you know, I'm hoping they bring the Stingray back. I really do. That would be cool.